Hello, and welcome back to our Partner Portal series. My name's Christopher, and in episode 4 we'll be covering the camera app. Let's start off by navigating to the camera app page. Before we begin, it is important to note that if you plan on using our camera app, you must first download the free app from the App Store. If you would prefer to use your own camera system or photo booth, then you can bypass this section and ensure your photos are being dropped into the hot folder. The first thing I'll be going over in this section is the difference between our front-facing and rear-facing camera options. The front-facing camera option is more applicable when the iPad will be placed in a ring light, a photo booth, or a kiosk. And after selecting the front-facing camera option, you'll notice that a timer option pops up. This timer is a countdown of 5 seconds, which is there to allow the guest to step back or pose for their picture. The rear-facing camera option is better suited for when a brand ambassador or photographer will be the ones taking the pictures of guests during your event. Most of the time we recommend the use of the rear-facing camera. This is simply because of the throughput of photos into the system being much higher compared to other photo booth selfie options. But if you decide on a front-facing camera, we do recommend a vertical use of the iPad opposed to a horizontal use. For the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to stick with the rear-facing camera option. The remaining two sections are both optional choices for your camera app. The first one we'll be taking a look at is our data collection form. By clicking this box here, you'll generate a list of elements that you can choose to use for your field forms. By clicking an element once, it'll make it an optional. By clicking an element twice, we'll make it required for the guest to fill out. You also have the option to change the text found in these forms. So we're going to change full name to first name for our tutorial. And then other selections we're going to make for our tutorial are going to be email and zip code. And then we also have these 3 custom fields down here. So we're going to ask for a custom field, and in that custom field we're going to ask for age. Since we didn't double click any of these are all optional fields for our guests to fill out. When opting in for data collection, you should provide a terms and conditions for your guest. We have a generic terms and conditions here, and the form for that can be found in the description of this video. If you have your own custom terms and conditions, that can be uploaded into the tool as a .html file. Below the terms and conditions, you will find several additional checkboxes that can be added to your form field. These are things similar to newsletters or email blasts. The item boxes you see labeled as box 3 and box 4 work the same way as the custom selections above and can be catered to your needs. Here is an example of what the data collection option looks like at an event. Lastly, you have the option to set up your camera with a green screen. There are 2 options for how these backgrounds will be presented to your guest. The 2 to 6 option means that your guest will be shown examples of their photo on 2 to 6 different green screen backgrounds. Depending on the amount of green screens provided, the 2 to 6 backgrounds can be different every time. If you select random, the guest will not have the option to pick their background. Their background will just be automatically chosen by the system. I'll be going with the 2 to 6 backgrounds with 4 options for our guest. For the backgrounds, you can choose up to 50 different ones for your event. We have provided a default library of 33 photos. You can upload your own backgrounds if you prefer. Uploaded photos should be square and at least 1200 by 1200 pixels. The files should also be saved as JPEG files prior to being uploaded. For our tutorial event, I'm going to use a mix of default green screen backgrounds as well as some uploaded ones that I have pre-prepared. So let's go and grab those. Perfect. And then we'll just choose some dark blue ones to really get, a little bit of a round out. It's important to pay attention to the colors of the backgrounds you select. For example, if the mosaic you're creating has no pink, you're not going to want to choose backgrounds with heavy pinks because it'll make your mosaic turn out not as ideal as it can be. Now that we've finished putting together our green screen backgrounds, we've completed all the options for the camera app. And just a reminder, the only required setting in this portion of creating your mosaic is the general camera setting of whether you want it front facing or rear facing. The other two are purely optional. But once you've reviewed your settings, make sure you save them down here. You can always come back to them at a later point, but if you do change anything, just make sure you're resaving whatever changes you do. That will wrap up episode 4. In our next episode, we're going to be going over the takeaway options, so be sure to check that out.